Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RottenPop Podcast. My name is Sid Rotten, and I am your guide taking you through these crazy, rotting video store aisles that are sitting dilapidated in the recesses of our minds. Isn't that beautiful? I just came up with that. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the 150 movies of 1980. Not all 150 movies, you crazies. Maybe in a couple of months after we're all done with all of these videos, maybe I'll come out with a really long 150 all the way through, straight through video. But for now, this is going to be a series that only breaks this down into 5 films at a time. So we're going to be starting with number 150, going all the way to number 146. Starting at number 150, we have The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu. Boy, that's a turd. And then going up the chain from that one, we're going to be looking at some comedies. We're going to be looking at some horror movies. We're going to be having a good time. So go ahead and strap yourself in. Make sure that you have that little bell icon dinged down there if you're on YouTube. Make sure that you're subscribed to me. You're probably listening to this over on Spotify or maybe on YouTube. Who knows? Wherever you're listening to it. Why don't you go ahead and give me some love? I would love to hear it from you. And if you feel like it, if anybody feels like it, there'll be a link down here. You can go ahead and buy me a coffee because I always enjoy that. But why don't you just go ahead, kick your feet up, grab yourself a brewski, grab yourself a bong, and just listen to what I consider to be, and what we here at the RottenPop Film Research Center consider to be, the best films of 1980, or at least 150 films from 1980. There'll be some really good ones in here. Here we go.
150.
All right, and so number 150 is The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu, a British-American comedy movie, a co-production from Piers Haggard that was produced by Hugh Hefner and Playboy Enterprises. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. The film stars Peter Sellers, Helen Mirren, David Tomlinson, and Sid Caesar. It was distributed by Orion Pictures on August 8th, 1980. Fu Manchu is popular going all the way back to the 20s, I believe. I haven't mapped out the history of Fu Manchu, but I'm pretty sure he goes back to the 1920s old pulp novels. And this movie doesn't do him any justice whatsoever. This terrible, terrible comedy attempts to revive the villain for a 1980s audience, but it just lands with a thud. There is no hope for this film whatsoever. This is just a terrible, offensive, poorly put together, poorly conceived, poorly acted, poorly written. I could go on just bashing this movie. Don't even get me started on the plot. It is a meandering mess, fueled by outdated tropes, offensive depictions that just wouldn't fly today. Even with an all-star cast like Peter Sellers and Helen Mirren, the film fails to salvage itself whatsoever. Look, I appreciate a good campy comedy. I really do. I love camp. I love that kind of thing. But The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu isn't just bad. It's offensive and boring. This relic belongs in the deepest vault of cinematic cringe. This is not on your watch list. Don't put this on your watch list whatsoever. If this is on your Letterboxd watch list, take it off your watch list. Take my advice. Avoid this Fu Manchu faux pas and find something that respects both your time and your sensibility. RottenPop gives this putrid mess half a star. It can only go up from here, folks. And it's going to, because we're about to jump into number 149. Let's do it. Let's go to it.
149.
And at number 149, we have Serial. Serial is a strange little comedy about California and how weird Californians are and how bizarre their little rituals are. And sure, I guess that to the rest of the world, Californians may look odd or different. But you know what? Californians are people too. And I really wish that everybody would just take a second, take a step back, and enjoy Californians for what they are. Beautiful, smart, amazing people. I'm just kidding with you. I'm from California myself, and I can tell you we're all crazy. The whole lot of us. Everybody from there. But besides that, this is number 149, Serial, a comedy film that is not very funny. It's going to be not as offensive as something like the Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu, but it's definitely not a movie that I'm laughing at. I'll tell you that much. It's from director Bill Persky and writers Michael Elias and Rich Eustace, starring Martin Mull, that guy from Roseanne. You'll know him when you see him. Tuesday Weld and a few other D-list comedians. You get Christopher Lee in here too, which is pretty cool. And then you get a Smothers brother, Tom Smothers. Not the other brother though, just Tom Smothers. This was independently produced and ultimately distributed by Paramount Pictures. And it hit American theaters on March 28th, 1980. The film is set in Marin County, present day, I guess, in 1980. And a couple must adhere to the quickly changing lifestyles, hopefully adding spice to their lives. But for Harold, hopefully not too much spice for his wife's life, if you understand my meaning. His wife seems to experiment a little bit more outside of the bedroom. And his daughter wants to join a cult. So things are looking pretty terrible for Harold. Poor Harold. Anyways, this weird, unfunny movie has some very, very unconventional comedy in it, and it's nothing that I find to be very funny at all, but there's some very light pederast humor in this film. Just something that everybody's been missing for so long, pederast humor. And if you don't know what that means, go ahead and look it up. You're not going to like it. Go ahead and watch this horrendous comedy if you really want to watch it. I mean, Martin Mull is fine. Everybody's just fine for what this movie is. And I may sound like I'm hating it, and I am. I don't like this movie. It's terrible. It just was not funny to me. It was a bore, a chore to watch, a chore to get through. I found myself maybe giving a chuckle to, I think there was a Star Trek joke that was funny, but that was about that. RottenPop recommends letting this one rot. 1 star.
148.
All right, and so now this next movie is Terror on Tour, a terrible, horrible horror movie that really doesn't have anything going for it. It is a film that focuses on a band, a glam rock band, that cuts up a dummy on stage and throws the pieces out into the crowd. The band reminds me a lot of Gwar meets The Addicts meets Kiss, sort of this weird mesh of these kinds of bands. And they're an actual real band called The Names, which they're actually a pretty terrible band called The Names. You can go ahead and you can look them up. They kind of sound like a glamish, Cheap Trick sort of band. And if you're into that kind of music, then this might be up your alley, but it's not for me. It's pretty lame and corny. Not my kind of music. Aside from that, the film is very cheap, poorly lit, poorly written, poorly made. You can barely hear what anybody is saying. A lot of the kills are very unexciting, just not exciting at all. One of the best things about this movie is that it has the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. He makes an appearance in this as the band's manager, and he might be the best actor in the whole picture, to tell you the truth. I really wish that this was a lot better. I wish that this movie had a lot more going for it, because there's not a lot of heavy metal movies or horror movies out there that really make the grade, if you catch my drift. And this is one of them that just lets all of that get wasted. It's just not a good film, and I think it rightfully deserves its spot here at number 148.
147.
Gorp is a terrible summer camp comedy film from director Joseph Rubin. The title stands for Good Old Raisins and Peanuts. I know, I get it. But it also stands for a horrible comedy film with offensive and unfunny humor. The film features Michael Lembeck, Dennis Quaid, and Fran Drescher. Okay, they're fine, but this is them very early in their careers, like first films almost. And it was released on May 1st, 1980. It's the final film released by American International Pictures. That's right, this movie was so bad that this was the final film released for that studio. This movie killed that studio. Are you ready for a summer camp? where the counselors are crazier than the campers. Well, Gorp is going to throw you headfirst into the antics of a group of waiters who turn a Jewish summer camp in the Catskills upside down. Led by pranksters Cavell and Bergman, they wage war on the cooks, chase after girls, and make life miserable for the camp director. You're going to see a lot of cursing, food fights, all of the things that you think would make it fun in these movies, but it's just not fun at all. It's full of skinny dipping and raunchiness, but it's not even fun raunchiness. It's just horrible, poorly made, poorly executed, and really badly timed comedy. If you like Animal House, then you're going to hate this one. This film is just not funny. I don't know how often I can put that across here. It's just not funny. It's annoying. It's boring. And Dennis Quaid's character is just 100% awful. He's the worst character so far in the films from 1980. Fran Drescher is okay, though. I mean, she was fine. I guess that's what sort of bumps this one up a little bit. She did an okay job. But the movie is so far out of touch. I know that 1980 was a different time, but this is like a completely different world. It's just sexual misconduct, rape, assault, case after case after case. There's a lot better camp comedies out there that are more well-suited, nicer films out there. Maybe go and watch one of those, but this is definitely not that. RottenPop gives this movie 1 star.
146.
Alien 2 on Earth, or Alien Terror, like it says here on this British home video box, is an Italian sci-fi horror movie from filmmakers Ciro Ippolito and Biagio Pierietti. I think that's how you say his name. That's at least how I'm going to say it. The film was made as a sequel to Ridley Scott's 1979 epic Alien. However, the filmmakers were taking advantage of a copyright loophole, and the film is not considered to be an official part of the series. This ripoff stars Belinda Main, Mark Bowden, Michelle Sauvé, Benedetta Fened, I can't do most of these names, and Roberto Barisi. It was first released in Italy on April 11th, 1980. And if you're expecting facehuggers and xenomorphs and Ripley and Jones the cat, then get ready for some disappointment, because you're not going to find that here. This isn't in this movie. The plot revolves around a group of cave explorers that are embarking on a weekend spelunking adventure in an abandoned cavern. Kind of like The Descent. You know what? Actually, watch The Descent. The Descent is a good movie. Unwittingly, these people who are spelunking awaken an ancient creature that has lain dormant for years. This is the first of our batshit insane films of 1980. I mean, the other movies that we were watching here, they were pretty crazy, but this is batshit insane. I think that's what makes this stand out a little bit ahead of the pack. I'm just going to throw in here that this movie doesn't hold back on the gore, and I like that quite a bit. That's what kind of makes it insane. Also, the claustrophobic setting, the cave, that really wasn't done up until this point, I don't think, or if it was, I really am not too familiar with something like that, but it was pretty crazy for me. And then they find a spaceship. There's a spaceship just thrown in here, so that's pretty nuts. It's weird how they tried to shoehorn in alien stuff into this weird claustrophobic horror movie. That's what makes it pretty batshit to me. It's still a horrible mess that attempts to capitalize on a property that's way outside of its league. And the smallest part of me respects that. You know, I respect the hustle. It's very punk rock. But alas, that's as far as my praise for this movie will go. Aside from the gory bits, which are fun, don't get me wrong, this movie is boring and it's a slog to get through. That may be its worst offense, actually. It's a clear example of a film that acts as an obvious cash grab just based on the title. It's incredibly ridiculous. I mean, both movies do have an alien creature, so I'm going to go ahead and give this one, you know, its due justice there. But this is a very crude, ugly DIY monster. There's a couple of them. It's not good. It's not like the terrifyingly elegant xenomorph that we all have come to love. While I admit that this is an intriguing choice on the video shelf, it's ultimately a regret waiting to happen, so save yourself the trouble and just skip it. Or check it out if you're into that kind of thing. So RottenPop gives this true sequel to Ridley Scott's masterpiece, Suck It, Cameron. You heard me. 1 star. All right, so that was the first 5 movies from the 150 movies of 1980, and it's a pretty interesting group of movies. The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu, Gorp, Alien 2. These are all such bizarre, strange movies that have one thing going for them. They all exist in this weird, absurdist place. That's the one thing that I think makes them stand out. Now, of course, there wasn't 150 movies that came out in 1980. There were thousands of movies that came out in 1980. But I only chose 150 of them. And to make that criteria, to make my list, there had to be something in them that ticked my interest. And absurd movies, ridiculous movies, absurd concepts really ticks my interest. I really love that kind of stuff. It's very interesting to me. So, if anything, these movies are all terrible, but they are all at least mildly interesting. They all have at least a little mild interest vested in them there. Well, that's it for this episode of the RottenPop Podcast. We will be returning again, hopefully soon. Hopefully I'll be able to get this format together a little bit better, so that we can come at you with more normality, like a more normal schedule. I would love to be able to put these out at least twice a month, 2 of these episodes a month. And if you have any questions, if you have any requests, if you want me to review anything specifically, or if you just want to discuss some movies with me, go ahead and reach out to me on Instagram at RottenFlix. You can check me out on YouTube at RottenPop on YouTube, RottenPop Retail if you want to buy some VHS tapes on Instagram. You can also find me on Letterboxd at RottenPop. So a lot of places out there to find me. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think. If you're listening to this episode today, you're on YouTube, go ahead and click that bell icon. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Check me out on Spotify. And yeah, keep watching more film. See ya.